morning. Today is Thursday, April 18th. It is 10:04, and we will now call the Board Development Committee meeting to order. Mr. Gaither, will you please call the roll?
Representing Educational District 2 and Chair of this committee, Ms. Everetta Balden.
Present.
Representing Educational District 5 and Board Chair, Ms. Erica Mitchell.
Present.
Representing Educational District at Large Seat 9, Ms. Jessica Johnson.
Present.
Madam Chair, I also want to recognize our General Counsel is present, and with that being said, you do have a quorum for this meeting.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us. I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the April 18th, 2024 Board Development Committee meeting.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion. There is a second. It has been moved. Well, it's pretty obvious who did it. We have a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the March 21st, 2024 Board Development Committee meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No one left. Motion carries. We will now move to our discussion items, and please note that all documents are located within our Assembly platform. The first few items are informational, but certainly open for discussion. As a reminder, our 2023-24 board conference schedule was shared with all board members at the beginning of the school year. The listed opportunities are conferences that the Atlanta Board of Education is a member, or the opportunity provides information to enhance the work of the board. In addition to the listed opportunities, the last names of board members who attended or have an interest in attending the conference are listed. During the budget process, the members are assigned an amount for travel. Are there any questions or discussion?
Yes. I know the calendar represent the school calendar year. Okay. I know the calendar represent the school. No. The conferences represent the school calendar year. That's what I'm trying to get to. And just for planning, there are some summer conferences that are not on here, and I was just going to make a note of those and get them out just so people who are interested in attending can prepare and plan for those conferences, because that'll be, like I said, probably like June, July. And then as we roll into the new school year, we'll have a new calendar pushing out for August 2024 to June 2025.
That sounds good. So it sounds like I'm hearing we would like to update the
Correct.
summer dates so folks could plan accordingly. And when does the new budget kick off? That's July 1st that will be in another budget year?
That's correct. So right now we do have conferences listed that we are aware of all the way up into July 24th. Even though that kicks off into the new budget cycle, we put that there because the planning for that happens in this particular cycle. And so if you just let us know what additional conferences are missing, we'll add them to the list to make sure that board members are aware of that.
So if we could update, because right now, like Board Chair Mitchell mentioned, the conference schedule is aligned to the 23-24 year. So for example, the CSBA conference that will be in July is aligned to 2023, but if we could put the 2024 dates, just so if somebody is planning to do that this summer, they'll know what the new dates are. Does that make sense?
I think I'm lost. Help
I'm
me
going to
out.
send it to you.
Okay.
So what I did is
Which
make a
conference are you
notation.
talking about? I'm
So the California School Board Association, which last year was July 9th through 12th, 2023. So we're approaching planning for this summer. So if someone wants to attend that conference, I just want them to have
okay.
the
I get what you're saying.
2024 dates so they know what the actual dates are and not what they were.
No. So I get you. So again, part of what's listed here are conferences that we are part of. That would be an additional conference. And so once someone has showed interest in it, we would then add that to that particular list. I know that we've had board members to attend that conference over the last 2 years, but it's not a conference that we're a part of. which is why we don't have it listed here, even if it's a summer conference.
There is a conference listed, though. It's on the schedule.
It is on the schedule.
I guess I'm confused.
We might not pay.
One.
Yeah. So what I want to clarify, we might not pay dues or membership to be a part of the organization for the conference, but this is part of a conference schedule of conferences we would like to attend
Right.
by paying the registration fee. So I get what you're saying. These are normally the conferences that we pay dues to through our state associations or whatever type of organization agreements we have with them. That's GSBA, Council of Great City Schools, and blah 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 blah. But this conference, I think, is it says California School Board Association, but I think it's California Association of Black Educators.
Yeah.
That's kind of the correct name for it. We're not a member of it, but we do pay a registration fee to attend because they do have great sessions.
No, I think we're saying the same thing. What I'm saying is it would be placed here on this calendar. So you see the first one because we had board members to attend that in this fiscal year. What I'm also saying is if there's a board member interested in a conference that's not listed, that we will add that conference once there was interest shown. And so if there's somebody interested in the CABES conference or any additional conference, we will add that once we have it. But I'll get the updated list from Board Chair Mitchell just to make sure that all of that information is here, even for the summer. But I'm just saying, we didn't know if anybody wanted
Yeah.
to attend.
Let's
So
go
we put it
ahead
on there.
and do the 24-25 conference schedule, because then that will cover the stuff that starts in the summer, and have that updated for our next meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes, but we're also asking for y'all to let us know for
Yes.
conferences that we're not a part of. Just let us know so we
Yes.
can add that
Can
to
add it to the calendar.
Correct.
We will do both that. We will give you additional conferences that aren't listed and also update the ones that are listed to
Okay.
the next fiscal year.
Okay, I got it.
Are we in alignment?
Yeah. And I have one more question. When you're ready.
Okay, and Board Chair Mitchell, there's another question?
I know the Council of Great City Schools and the Harvard Schools Accelerated Boards Capacity. I know that conference is coming up. I know we sent a dozen emails out for people who want to attend the conference. I have to know because I have to follow up with an organization that will provide the financial support for the board members who would like to attend. So it would not come out of our travel budget at all.
So at this point, we only have 3, and your name is missing here, Chair Mitchell, but we only have 3 people who have showed or at least expressed interest via the communication that was sent out. And so I do have some board members who said they're unable to attend. I will say part of what we just had, it's a limited amount of seats available for the conference, but the conference is also really geared towards full boards and superintendents who will be present. And so we have a really good chance, if we had a good number of board members attending, and just ensuring that we could solidify those seats. But at this point, only 3 board members have responded that they were interested in attending.
And will you remind us of the dates for the?
July
ABC?
21st through the 24th.
Okay, it sounds like we should send out a follow-up email regarding interest. And maybe with a heartfelt message from our chair. Just about the importance. It's something that we did before. We did it virtually. So my guess is it hit a little different, but it was impactful. And given the fact that we do have a new board, it would make sense in terms of team building. So may I request that of you, Chair Mitchell?
Yes, I will send the email follow-up because, like I said, they're pressing us to let them know how many people so that they can look at their funding available to ensure that we all have the ability to attend.
And we should also, now that we know that Dr. Battle will be with us during this time, reach out to her and inquire about her availability to participate with us as well. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I like the head nods. Get back to my script. Okay, the board, moving on to item B. Each board member, or did I read, is required to receive continual education credits to enhance the effectiveness of board governance. New board members are required to receive 15 hours, and veteran board members are to receive 9 hours. 3 of the hours are dedicated to whole board training, and hours are to be completed between July 1st and June 30th of the school year. Attached in Assembly are the current hours for board members, and I'm happy to say that we are pacing very well in meeting this goal. And I also believe that there was an invite sent out for May 1st for full board training.
That's correct. So a hold has been placed on the calendar for all board members to solidify that date with GSBA.
And then how many hours would we get from this?
That would be a 3-hour training.
Oh, so that would make a lot of people whole, if I was looking at that chart correctly. I know it will make me whole. 3. Yes. Okay, excellent. Any questions or discussions around the board training hours, upcoming full board training? I'm also pointing out that the summer GSBA conference is coming up. Hours are available there, but you would need to go to the
Correct.
pre-conference session. It's a full day. I believe about 6 hours is available in that space. So I encourage my colleagues to look at that schedule and see if there are any interest for the pre-schedule. And then I have a question, but I'm going to wait to see if any of my colleagues have questions.
So, Madam Chair, before you do that, I also want to acknowledge that we'll be sending out a virtual training schedule as well. So there is an opportunity to receive hours through virtual training, and we'll share that as well because we would need to close that out.
Is there any reason or incentive for us to exceed our training hours?
I'm glad you asked. It is. It helps us as it relates to awards with the Georgia School Boards Association, that if you exceed by 3 or more hours, that you'll be recognized as like a board of like highest quality. There are some other factors that go into that, but that is one of the key pieces in regards to that.
So there is a good reason, other than us being like well-educated
Right.
and informed, for us to seek some additional hours.
Right. It's to get some extra
Excellent.
credit.
So we are all on schedule. Board members have either completed their hours or only have 3 left. So we are pacing that we could actually all get an additional hours if that is something that we want to encourage our colleagues to strive for. Just thought I'd point that out. All right. Any questions, discussion, any other things? Moving right along. Love this committee. The Board Governance Manual was created as a tool for board members, guiding us from elections to the day-to-day operations of the district. This document does not replace the charter or policy manual, but more of a resource guide pulling from both documents. This document was approved by the board in November 2021. Committee members are asked to review the document and provide information regarding updates. This is something that is not going to be done overnight. This is going to be a process, so we will have space for this conversation right now at each of our meetings, and then possibly break it up into pieces in terms of how we want to attack the update. So if you all have not had a chance to start reviewing the governance manual, I encourage you to give it a once over, twice over, and then let's come prepared to talk about just initial questions and thoughts about how we need to move forward in updating this for our next meeting. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Also would like to weigh in to have Coach Ashley pause to help with that part too, as she is part of the council to ensure that we have our correct operational responsibilities in there too as well. So I just want to throw that out there because that's part of
Yes, that's
The
an
coaching,
excellent
yeah.
idea. And I actually envision, once we move to the next item that we're talking about, that Coach Ashley may end up being a regular guest to these conversations that we have, especially if, again, not trying to get ahead of myself when we're talking about the language for our policy, if that includes soft G, we just need to make sure that if we are guiding that work, that we are also well-informed. Okay. Any other questions or discussions in this area? So can we make sure that Ashley has the board governance manual? Okay. Thank you. All right, we have a guest speaker here today. Board member Katie Howard has developed a community engagement plan that eventually may go to policy. So we have one that exists, but it's just, Katie, I'm gonna just hand it over. I'm not even gonna try to explain how you got to this place, but if you could give us just a quick why you did this, and then walk us through the important things that we need to understand in this, and then we can ask some questions and talk about next steps. So Board Member Katie Howard, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's great to be with y'all today. I love this committee too. And I'm glad you'll have a copy of my proposed community engagement plan for the board. I've been sitting here tweaking it, so I understand there's some edits that are needed. But yeah, actually, I started working on this through my cohort with the Council of Great City Schools. And as we all know, it's critically important that the board engage with the community in two-way engagement. And that's so important to student outcomes focused governance work because, as we all know too, the goals and the guardrails reflect the vision and values of the community. So if we don't work with them, then they don't have the meaning they have to have. And the purpose of the community engagement plan for us as the board, the superintendent has her own community engagement plan, and we support one another appropriately. But this is for us to go out and share about our work in student outcomes focused governance, give updates on our goals, where we are with progress, to get feedback from the community, because we have to know what's going on the ground to know whether or not what we have in place really is working and improving student outcomes. So that being said, I started somewhere. And of course, this is a start. I'm really looking forward to everyone's feedback and seeing what else is needed, what needs to be adjusted. But to give some highlights, being that we'd go out collectively, I'm proposing no less than, I believe, 4 of us going out together. So it'd be a commitment from the board to say we're going to do this, ideally all of us, but 4 times a year, and doing it in quadrants of the city. I think that's important so we'd reach the most people at a time, also because it would require a majority of us to go out. And we know that people have other meetings going on, other things happening, but we need to be realistic about what we can handle. But it would also be an incredible way to have a mix of communities there and schools and people to know each other and one another and know what's going on in other schools and communities. So proposing Northwest, Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, 4 times a year. Meetings, we would work to make sure that they're in locations that are accessible by public transit, there's parking available. We could even work with partners to have childcare, food, other resources provided. We would start, and this isn't in the policy, it does say that the goal of this is to share updates on our student outcomes focused governance work. But additionally, departments from the district could be there to provide information. You could have community organizations there. This could be a really awesome event for everyone. They would have to be live streamed and recorded. That is in my proposed policy or in this outline of what I'm proposing. And again, to provide updates on the board's goals and guardrails. We'd also take questions and other things as well. We'd have almost like a question bank, and then the district would follow up. So it's an opportunity to hear from the community and other things too, but we really want to keep the focus on what we're doing with our goals and our guardrails. I've also gone on to include student voice because we absolutely value that as a board, and I want to make sure they're included in this hopeful future policy, and how we go and engage with them. We're fortunate to have the Student Advisory Council, and we know they represent their schools. So even though with Breakfast with the Board, we strive to go and to every school, and that's such a fantastic, important experience, we know we can't realistically go to them with this information to every single high school. So I'm proposing that we as a board attend at least one Student Advisory Council meeting a year and provide updates on our goals and guardrails and get feedback from them as a way to include student voice. Lastly, but most importantly, educators. I also included them and administrators in that we would, and of course working with the superintendent, to determine the best opportunity, but present to educators, staff throughout the system, one time a year, an update on our goals and guardrails. It could be district-wide training that we just pop in on and that we give an update on where we are, because this work is very important to what they're doing, and we have got to include their feedback, and we want them to know exactly what we're doing at this level. And we've done a good job of talking about it in different spaces, but we do know a lot of educators and administrators and people on the ground, and this includes everyone, people in nutrition, bus drivers, everyone, knowing what we're doing, because it absolutely applies to them and impacts what they do every day. And we really value them and their feedback. And that's another way we can build trust with them as well. So that is what I'm proposing right now. I appreciate y'all bearing with me as I went through it, but it was great getting to share it with my cohort when the culmination of my time with the student outcomes focused governance training at that level. And lastly, I'll say I definitely want Ashley's input on this. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions or come back again or whatever works for y'all.
So, I mean, I love the general idea of this, right? I mean, I love what you put into place, because one of the challenges that we have is we speak goals and guardrails very fluently, but when it goes to any other level, people don't necessarily understand, how does it affect me? How does it impact me? How do I impact this? And so this is a great way to get everybody speaking the same language. I also, while you said two-way at the beginning, we talked about updates, but the understanding is it's not just us talking, but we do some talking, and then there's a space to listen, to have dialogue, to engage, and possibly some activities or whatnot, depending on how we see this panning out. But if I understand correctly, we're basically talking about, if done as proposed, basically 6 meetings. So it would be 4 in the quadrants, 1 dedicated to the students and then 1 dedicated to staff. It would be two-way. It would talk about the visions and the values of the community, the goals and the guardrails, updates, that the details will definitely be fleshed out, doesn't need to be talked about here. And you are requesting that at least 4, I figure at least 5, like,
I was gonna say 5.
like, yeah, I think 5. I think it should be ideally the majority of us, because ideally it would be all of us. Because that is one of the things that we've heard from the community is we have individual meetings where people have the opportunity to engage with their district member or their district interest, but there hasn't necessarily been a place to engage with all of us. So again, so I would push for 5 at minimum. I love the accessibility in terms of making it sure that it's accessible via public transportation, the childcare. So we want to eliminate the barriers for anyone to participate. So I love that too, but I probably shouldn't have spoke first. Apologies. Let me yield the mic to my colleagues. Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I think the only comment that I have is I would want to make sure that we make a genuine effort to reach out to different stakeholders. I think we have a lot of engagement from really strong communities and networks, but I think we could do a better job in this process and maybe find some partners that would help us with that to ensure that all of the voices are at the table.
I love that. This should feel different. It should feel different. It should feel like it was a party that you were personally invited to and not something that you heard about on the streets, right?
I'll just say I 100% agree, and I'll provide some more feedback that I've been thinking about.
No, you're fine. I was just highlighting some things. Oh, thank you. On the thing, the two-way communication is perfect because a lot of times when people come to a board meeting, it's only one-way communication. They speak and then we listen, but this gives us the opportunity to really get more granular in the conversation around what our community, our city, and our stakeholders are feeling, wanting, needing, whatever it might be, feedback, and just have a conversation and work through a lot of whatever it might be, right? The other thing that I did look at, I do want to commend you on the public transportation. I believe working with MARTA or whoever to make sure that there is some accessibility around the times that we do have this meeting and making it, not telling them to make us a top priority, but making it a priority to ensure that there's some streamlined transportation, even, considering I know this sound maybe so in 1980s, but carpooling. Yeah, I was like, I'm just thinking like, or have like buses available, and not our buses available. And I'm not trying to tell administration to get buses, but I'm just saying like, I'm thinking about carpooling ways that, if parents can meet at the school, we can take them wherever we holding these meetings are. I don't know where, but if we, designate a place in the district. So let's say we're in Northwest, we have a place in Northwest, we pick them up and take them, you have the daycare, you have all that. So basically, like you said, removing the barriers to ensure that we have those parents' engagement. Also, and this is something I always think about when I used to hold my community meetings in the library. I would have to go advertise, of course, at the library, but also at the YMCA, at the rec centers, other library sites to make sure they were notified about the meeting. Also went to like daycares as well, and I'm trying to think of where else I hit, in churches. Oh gosh, yes, I went to churches. So I would drop off, like if they had District 5 meeting, I would print a whole bunch of these papers out and I would just go drop them off just to make sure that I would just hit in certain areas that community do go to on a regular, and that they would see it and hopefully they'll pick it up and they would come, and some of them did, and I thought that was successful. But then we could also utilize our partnerships that we have with WABE to really promote and push this engagement within their network of people. We can also ask the city of Atlanta to post it on their channel, whatever channel it is, and also the county commissioner they have an outlet, because this is more like a public service announcement, and so we can take this to promote it through a kind of a PSA. To help push that engagement as well. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, and this just came top of mind, I don't know, how y'all feel about it. With breakfast with the board, that's a great engagement, but I also thought, like, could we do it twice a school year? So you have like the beginning of the school year before Christmas, and then you have after we start coming back in January, in between April. And the reason I say this is because you'll have different experiences, different times of the year based on how they're progressing through the school year. And I thought maybe I can just put that out there. I don't know if that's something that is feasible. Do we have the capacity to even do it around planning, around timing, and, I don't know. So I just throwing that idea out there. And then the other part with, I love the part about the educators, administrators, and district-wide staff, because it's very important for them to know exactly what we're doing and understanding our governance structure. And I think a lot of times people don't understand well, first of all, what we do as a board member, because I would tell you, before I became board member, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Until I got into this role, and then it was totally different from what my perspective was prior to becoming a board member, and letting them know exactly what it is that we do, why is it so important, and how they can play a role in the work that we do, because they do it every day, but just in understanding the work from a governance level. So that's all I have to say. And I know that there's a leadership conference that APS does right before the school year kickoff. And I'm just put that as a note. Maybe that's an opportunity to engage with staff. So I don't have anything else to say. I'm done.
So we have gone all the way into the weeds on this. I'm going to bring us back up to an aerial level, because the general idea, it sounds like that we are aligned with. The how is the next steps. It's, to me, what I'm hearing, it sounds like a very intentional communication plan will need to be developed around this, but not necessarily live within the policy. I love, but definitely the addition of the staff and the student voice. This is not the policy committee, so we're not going to wordsmith and get into, again, back into the weeds of this. But it does sound like we need to update our community engagement policy to include these thoughts and ideas. So, looking at Madam General Counsel, what would we need to hand over to policy to say, okay, this is something that the Board Development Committee is aligned with, this is something that we believe needs to be done, we want to update the community engagement policy to include these thoughts and ideas. What do we need to do to hand that over to them and get this work done?
So I would suggest, if Board Member Howard already has these thoughts sort of captured in a written document, passing that over to the policy committee so they can put it on their agenda for refinement. And Board Member Howard, since you're the brain trust on this, certainly I would imagine that they would welcome your involvement and input in that process through the policy committee process.
So is there a formal vote or anything that needs to happen with us to move it to that space, or we just need general consensus? And
Just consensus is fine to move it on.
do we have general consensus that this is something that we believe in and want to support and push to policy?
Yes.
Yes.
Even though we didn't have to vote, we all said yes. So that's great. That's great. Good work. Good work. I'm excited, like, to see what this could be, because, like, we all agree that it should look and feel different, and based on the conversations that we've had here, it will. Like, could you imagine, a bus to pick up the parents to bring you to the meeting? Like, how cool would that be? That would be super cool. And I'm gonna throw in there, let's feed them too.
Yeah,
So
well,
maybe we can get a partner to jump in on this to feed and transport and entertain our children while our parents are engaged. And better yet, like, the kids can also have their own little session where we pull out, their experiences as well. So
Yeah,
exciting, yay, good work.
Is it okay, Loretta, real quickly, if I'm going to incorporate some of the feedback y'all
Yes,
get today,
please.
and I will send it back to you, because that was great feedback. I do want to mention, in terms of, like, making sure it has the right partners, the right connection to the community, I actually did put in here that the board members in those quadrants would be involved in the development of the meeting, like helping select the location and the partners involved. I think that's important to say, that because you all know your communities best in those quadrants. But yeah, I will send this back to y'all after I make some additional edits, and I'm excited about it going to policy committee. So thank you so much for the
Excellent.
opportunity. Appreciate
Excellent.
y'all.
Speaking of the policy committee, we're going to keep them busy, because we want to codify the board development committee. Like, we want to make ourselves official. So when folks are asking how many committees does Atlanta Board of Education have, there is no confusion about what the real answer is, right? Because we are certainly official, but we need to make us official on paper. So at the last meeting held on March 21st, 2024, the committee was presented with recommended language for the board development policy. We are soliciting feedback regarding a clear, defined purpose of the committee to share language with the Policy Review Committee for review and approval by the board. Y'all have in front of you, committee members, two documents for board development policy. In essence, when I look at them, they're saying the same thing different ways, right? Just using slightly different words. The order may be different, but the general idea is one that we are an official committee dedicated to the professional growth among board members, and that there are some primary responsibilities that exist within this committee. One is managing the student outcomes focus process, so the Council of Great Cities Student Outcomes Focus Governance Framework. The thinking is that this committee would help lead, guide, and hold accountable that work. The other is continuing education, so just making sure that our colleagues are aware of what education opportunities are out there and holding them accountable for reaching their training hours and doing it within budget. And also the development and evaluation of board governance. So the processes, procedures, and protocols for effective board governance. So I was reading off of both documents when I gave that update because I believe both of these have good nuggets and good value. As y'all know, words aren't necessarily my friend as much as numbers are. So when it comes to wordsmithing and legalese, I would love to leave that again to the work of the policy committee, but I want to make sure that the general idea and theme is captured in whatever it is that we hand over to them. So are there any questions, comments, preferences, or additions in terms of how the board development committee guides the work of the board?
So I do have a suggestion for an addition. I think that as we're looking at bringing, as we're looking at bringing the softy work into this kind of committee space, I would also love for us to consider bringing in some strategic planning for the board itself, in terms of like how are the policies that we are suggesting, how are the budget recommendations and questions aligning with our soft G goals, and how can we be a little more strategic in making sure that, you know, across the board in all of our work, we are all leaning in those specific ways, even down to like when we're asking for board presentations during our meeting. Like, can we work towards, let this committee be the one that spearheads the work towards us all leaning in those 4 areas with our governance roles.
May I suggest that engagement be a part of that strategic planning as well, in terms of how strategically, intentionally are we engaging our community so they're aligned with, so we are aligned with their visions and values and they're aligned with the things that we've put in place for accountability. I love that addition.
Yeah, thanks.
Same here, I just wrote it down, district. Same here, I just wrote down district strategic plan engagement under there as well. Yeah, we leave it up to the policy committee to merge the docs. One thing I don't know was left out is, what was it? No, it wasn't. I think that's it, yeah, no, I see it right here. Nope, I'm good.
So if we feel with the addition of a number 4, strategic planning, assuming that aligns within, I mean, we all feel like it aligns. It's between these 2 documents, I believe that the idea is captured. I'm thinking before this gets moved on to policy, it should be reviewed by our coach and maybe get some feedback from her in regards to what might be missing or what we might want to include before passing this on.
Since it does specifically invoke SOFG, I think that's a good idea. And am I understanding correctly that it is the version that was drafted by Board Chair Mitchell that y'all will be working off of as your working draft?
We have a we have another one. Again, it says basically the same thing in a different way. So I would like for them to just merge it and use their expertise in pulling out what needs to be stated.
Sure, there are a few meaningful differences.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, for instance, who appoints the chair
Oh,
of the
yes,
committee?
yes.
External advisors.
that needs to be
kind of thing.
added,
So
yeah.
you'll want to make sure that that's in alignment.
So in terms of what we did this go around, the Chair Mitchell appointed the committee chair. Right now, I believe Audit Committee is the only committee that elects its own, that self-appoints. Personal opinion, I'm okay with the chair making the recommendation. Jessica and Erica, preferences?
Well, when I first wrote it, I wrote it for the Board Development Committee to appoint its own chair. That was the intent, that, you know, who wanted to serve on here and gave, you know, authority to the committee to self-elect their chair. But since we were developing the policy for this. Now, the guidance I received that the board chair needs to appoint. I'm okay with the committee appointing, doesn't have to be the board chair.
I am a fan of the board chair making the recommendation because this committee is going to be driving a lot of the work of the board. I feel like the board chair should make the recommendation. That's just my personal opinion. I am open to either way.
And then it comes back to who wants to do the work, should be the board chair. I mean, the committee chair as well. I don't know. I mean, I'm free with both, because we've right now we have had the board chair elect the chair. So, I mean, if we want to continue that, that's fine. If we look at the board, not the board, but the committee electing this chair, I'm fine with that. Either way it goes, I'm good. It's depending on what the majority wants.
Board Member Johnson?
I mean, I would love for the committee to identify outside individuals that we think could really help us push the work forward.
So that moved on to, so you're okay with the either person appointing the chair? Do you have a comment on that?
Well, I would prefer for the committee chair to do it.
No, who would appoint the committee chair? Would it be the committee that votes, or do you want the board
the
chair
committee.
to do it?
The committee.
Okay, so that sounds like there's 2 for committee vote, and I'm cool with that. So we can keep that there. And then the other thing, I love the idea of community member participation. I believe Jessica said she loved that as well. And I also believe that in our governance, our soft G governance, that it is recommended that there be community people involved. Is that soft G, or was that a GSBA thing?
That was a GSBA.
I mean, I think it makes sense to have community participation.
And could I recommend that the language allow the committee to have community advisors rather than require?
Okay.
It gives you maximum flexibility.
Okay, so if we can make that update and bold it so they know that that's something that we are. So I believe we addressed the 2 major differences, which is who would elect the chair and will there be community involvement?
Yeah, and there was just one more minor one in the shorter version. It says that one of the purposes of the Board Development Committee is going to be to evaluating board members. I assume that goes to the self-evaluation that the board does as a whole.
Yes.
I just want to make that clear, because I wouldn't want any board member thinking that
They're
this
getting
group of people
evaluated?
are getting an EPAT at the end of the year. Yeah.
Yes, that would be in terms of the self-evaluation, actually reviewing it and holding ourselves accountable for what we're doing and not doing. All right, sounds like we're good. Jessica, I'm moving along. I'm going to get you out of here. You don't have to be sorry. We all got time commitments. Okay. So, were there any other questions or discussions around this for the policy? We might be official shortly. Okay, so next steps. We've kind of discussed them throughout the meeting. Pierre, do you have any questions in regards to our marching orders in terms of next steps?
No. So, well, I do. I'm sorry. So for the policy piece, are we bringing this back to this committee as revised, or are we sending it over with the recommendation to the policy review committee?
We want to update it with what we've talked about
Okay.
and share it with Ashley. And then maybe, do we invite Ashley to our next meeting if she, and to give feedback?
That is up to you.
So we can do that. If it's simple feedback and she can do it in writing, then we can discuss it. And then the plan would be to move it on after our next meeting.
And then which version would you like to use as the base of just updating?
I think the one, just my opinion, the one drafted by Board Chair Mitchell
Okay.
probably has more meat,
All
and you
right.
can pull the other sections.
Excellent. Thank you, Board Chair Mitchell, for your work on this. We're going to bring it home. We're going to bring it home.
And then for just going back to the top as a next step, we will add dates that we have because some of these conferences are still pushing out, but at least for 24, 25. And then board members will get me additional dates just to make sure that everything is all included. And Chair Mitchell will reach out to, or send an encouraging message to board members to follow up around the ABC training at Harvard. I've already sent the message over to the superintendent's team just to see if she's available to attend that. So, yeah, I think we're good to go.
And there was one other thing. I believe
Oh, the
Katie was
policy.
going to update,
Yes.
make the updates, send it to us to look at, and then,
We'll have one more look over, and then
Yep.
you guys will send it over.
sweet. Okay. So, and now let's proceed with public comment. Mr. Gaither, do we have any stakeholders who signed up for public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no public comment.
Oh, we lost our only audience member. Guess she didn't have any comments. Okay. Well, if there's no public comment, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.